our CPU into our motherboard so it works.
And how do you do that?
You push this little lever down and out so it comes up. Then you line up your golden triangle with your triangle on your motherboard. And it should just slide in. Like that. Now you push your lever down. And you're done. So now we're going to put our RAM into our motherboard so that it works. I think we need the instructions to tell us which. We're going to put our memory in slot MMA2 and MMB2 so that we can take advantage of our dual channel memory for funsies. In, push it hard until you hear it snap. Now we do the same for this one. Line it up. It snapped, so we're all good. So now we're gonna add our stock cooler onto our motherboard and our CPU to test our post. So we need to remove these two brackets on our motherboard. We're now going to add our stock cooler onto our motherboard, and it already has pre-installed thermal paste. So we're going to put it on like so. And just like that. Now that our stock cooler is installed, we will plug our CPU fan into CPU fan on the motherboard. Just like that. Since our CPU does not have graphics, we are going to put in a temporary graphics card to check our video output. You're just going to line it up and push down until it is tightly secured. Now that we have our power supply out and our graphics card, our CPU, and our RAM installed, we are going to do a post to make sure everything works correctly. So for that, we're going to need our power supply with our 24 pin and a 8 pin for our graphics card.
CPU.
Yeah, that one. Because it says CPU right there. Okay, so put our 24 pin in. Now we're going to use our CPU 8 pin and just just plug it in. Like so. Now that we have everything connected, we have our temporary monitor, and we are going to flip on our power supply and jump start our computer for fun. Not really, but for post. So we're just gonna flip this thing on, and we're gonna touch these two things right here.
Okay.
Look at our cool lights. It's so fun.
Hey, we got a post.
Ta-da! It works. Now that we have our post, we're going to flip off our power supply and get ready to put everything else into our computer and put it in our case. So now we are going to install our M.2 SSD into our motherboard. So we're going to remove these two screws on our motherboard. Just to pick that up and not lose that, because that is very important. We are going to make sure that we do this correctly. And it's in. I do believe we are now going to need this tiny screw. Put it on. So, make sure it's on there as well. Do I have to peel this off? We're going to peel back this good old thing right here, because that is our heat sink, and one of our screws has fallen off onto our table. So we have gotten our case out of our box and removed our two fans and our support bracket. So now we're going to add our fans and our radiator to our support bracket. So now that we have our support bracket lined up, we're going to add our fans to our radiator like this, and we're going to run our cables through this hole right here. This, and screw in our fans. Make sure everything is lined up correctly. We have our first screw in. We're going to add the other one after we fix our support bracket, and I think I screwed them in the wrong one. So we're just going to do like that. Move this over a little bit. That's the wrong way. I'm a professional. Just like that.
Loosen that screw up just a little bit. There you go.
We're going to line up our second one and try and get it in the hole.
started. There you go.
Started. This one, gonna move our wires out of our way. Screw it down. Make sure it's on there good. To continue to. So now we're going to do the same with our second fan. Should pull the wires through the hole so we can cable manage a little bit better. And we're going to line up our fan. Screwed in. So now we are going to install our motherboard into our case, picking up our motherboard by the edges. We're going to line it up with this little peg in the middle. Like that. And we're going to add 8 screws into each spot like this. There's one there. They're all over the place. Now that we have our motherboard installed, we're going to plug in our front panel connectors. So this one comes through right up here. This is our USB 3, and it just plugs in right there.
USB-C.
USB-C, same thing.
Not same thing.
3 is the same letter as, C is the third letter in the alphabet, therefore it works. This guy right here, come up through here. He is the front panel, which goes to this one where we jump started our little computer when we were testing.
Wrong. It's over here.
Oh, what the heck? It moved.
It's on the far right.
Cables are up. Plugs in just like that. And we're just gonna put that one down there. That's gonna be me later. This big old guy right here just plugs into this right here.
That's good. That's good.
And then last we have our audio input, which goes to this guy in the corner. And like that, we have plugged in all of our... Nope, I plugged it in wrong. Now we have plugged in all of our front panel connectors. So now that we have our motherboard and all of our front panel connectors put in, we are going to add our radiator to the front of our case. So we're going to put our cables through up here. Go just like this. All of our cables. This thing on. And it connects with two little thumb screws. Now that we have our radiator installed, we're going to put our back plate onto the back of our motherboard. We got these screws, and taking these little things right here, we just push them on like so. Now that we have everything ready, we're going to add our thermal paste to our CPU and place down our cooler. So just a little dot, about that big. And then going to flip this guy over. Oh. Those were some tricky screws to put on, but the peel. It's nice. Now we are going to install our hard drives by removing these screws on the bottom. This is our hard drive bay, and our 3.5 inch will go here on the bottom, like that. Maybe. Think so. Hope so. Makes sense, because yeah. So we can access these cables. Now that we have attached our hard drive to our hard drive cage, we're going to put it back in. Like this. It should be perfect size. Just do it like that. I have removed our SSD thing that we will attach the SSD to. Okay, so we have our 2.5 inch SSD put on. So we just put it back onto here like this. I think maybe it might work like that. I'm gonna get these Velcro things out of the way. And it goes just like that. And you put this screw. Like that. So now I have plugged in these two SATA cables into my solid state state drive and my hard drive, so they now work. Right now we're putting our 2 exhaust fans into our computer. These are going to be the rear fan and the top fan.
So we're about to do cable management. This is the part where you say help.
We manage the cables. Next we're gonna do the power supply and do more cables. We have managed all of the cables now, so we are going to put our backplate back on our computer to make it look better. Those cables don't look very good. To line up each one, like so. Currently we're installing the graphics card. And I dropped the screw under the computer, so voila! Look what I found. It was planned, scripted. Not really. I wish. Ta-da! Now we plug this one in, right? Yeah. Except it goes this way, right? Maybe? We'll hope so. Ta-da! Now we get rid of those cables with a zip tie. 'Cause, yeah. I'm gonna do it right here in front of everyone. Ta-da. So we're gonna put our front panel and our side panel on the computer now because we want to, and it makes it look better. There's the front panel. So if we put our front panel on, now we're gonna be it's kind of sad and miserable. Everything's done, and we're gonna turn it on and make sure it looks good. It would be better if the graphics card lit up, but it doesn't. So it's done now. Made one slight change with our graphics card. My dad gave me his because it lights up and it looks cooler. And everything runs great. So now we have our completed computer.